So we learned that we have this index.js file, and I can tell you that this file in the end includes the code which executes first when we start our app, and that this renders this strange thing into the place of this div here. Now, what is that strange app thing here? We're importing app from this app file, in the end from the app.js file, because extensions are added automatically on the imports. And there, what we have is in the end a JavaScript function. This is a regular function, an arrow function stored in this constant. And then we export this constant and therefore this function. Pretty straightforward. But the thing inside of the function is not straightforward. What we return here looks like HTML, just like this looks like HTML. But it's in a JavaScript file. It can't be HTML, right? You can't add HTML in a JavaScript file. That's a special syntax invented by the React team. It's called JSX, and it allows us HTML-looking code in JavaScript files. And under the hood, this will be translated to instructions React understands. In detail, this here is similar to React create element, a method provided on this React object here, and then here h1, and then here null or an empty object, and then as a third argument your text here. For example, hi, this is React. Different text than before, but it will render something similar on the screen. This will yield the same result, and I can prove that to you if we simply start our development server and try to see this app in action. To start it in the package.json file, we find a script, the start script, which already exists there. And this will in the end use that tooling I mentioned earlier to then transform our code and to start up a development server, which automatically reloads or injects changes when we change something. So here we can open up a new terminal integrated into this IDE, and there run npm start to bring up that development server. And you should keep that server up and running as long as you are working on your code, because when you close it, you can't preview your page anymore, your app anymore. Now, when you start this server, when you run npm start, it should automatically open up a new tab in the browser on localhost 3000. If it doesn't, simply do so on your own and visit it. And there you should see, hi, this is React, which clearly is the text I entered here. So in the end, this here is React syntax, and we could write our entire app with this syntax. But this gets very cumbersome, especially if we start nesting elements into each other. That is why React gives us this alternative JSX syntax, which in the end is just translated to React create element and then what I just showed you. That's also why we need to import React here, even though it looks like we're not using this React object anywhere in this file, right? We have this React text here, but that's something different. So we're not using it anywhere in this file. Well, it gets used implicitly because this is just syntactic sugar in the end. It is translated to that other syntax I showed you. And that is what React is all about. We tell React which elements it should render. And under the hood, it then will translate this into commands that the DOM understands, that the browser understands to render real DOM elements. Now, for example, if I add the title here, which gives us this tooltip that's built into the browser basically, this works. And I save this, it automatically reloads. You don't need to do so on your own. And if you now hover over this, you see this tooltip. This works. Very small here, but you can see it if you test this on your own system. Now, this works because that in the end is translated to React create element h1, then this object which we previously left empty. Here we set the attributes or the properties we want to set on that DOM node which is created here. In this case, title to this works. And then thereafter, we have the text. This is how this works, and React will do everything it needs to do. It will create this element, it will set all these properties or attributes here, and it will render the last argument here inside of that created element. And that's also the part where this JSX code helps us, because if in here we have, let's say, another HTML element, we would have to nest multiple React create element calls into each other, which quickly becomes very hard to manage. That's why this JSX syntax here is a great idea, a great invention. So we will use this syntax, and we also use it here in index.js. The difference is, though, that here we don't use it with a normal HTML DOM element, but instead here we use a custom function, because we are using what gets exported in the app.js file. And what we export there is a normal JavaScript function. Well, that is one of the most important concepts of React: components.